Hello and welcome to another instalment of my Python for Beginners series. In this video we're going to be looking at selection, which is just using if and else statements. As normal, this video accompanies a blog which I'm showing on the right, and the URL will be attached to the description of the video. So we're going to start with this simple program. Those of you that have seen my IDE choices video will have already seen this program once. We're just going to start with a quick explanation of what's happening in this program. We start, then we create a variable. More accurately, that is actually called declaring a variable. So I'm declaring a variable called name. I'm then taking a user input, which is this bit here, and I'm assigning it to the variable name. Once we've done that, we come to a choice, and we're going to make a statement that name is the same as the bit inside the quotation marks, which is must paint, and it has to be exactly the same. If that statement is true, we'll come here and we'll print UR, and then we'll print out the contents of name after it. If it's false, we're going to print UR not must paint, and then the program will end. So let's start with a debugging point. The IDE that I've chosen for this example is Visual Studio Code. I will be doing different IDEs in different videos just to show that although the editor or the IDE is different, the process is almost the same. So I'm going to debug that code. I'm going to step in. And it's asked for your name, please. So the first one I'm going to do is must paint, so it's exactly the same. Press the enter key. We can see up here that the value must paint has been stored into the variable name. If I step in again, it's checked whether that is exactly the same, and it is, so it's come to this code block here. Code blocks are signified by an indent in Python. I will retype this manually shortly so you can see how that works better. So I'll step in again, and it's done the output there. Just to run that again to show you what happens if I do a different input. So we'll do that. And all I'm going to do is change the first letter. So it's lowercase instead of uppercase. Again, I'm going to hit return. When I drop that down, it comes into the else block because it wasn't the same, and then it will output this code here when I run the next line. And again, you are not must paint. Okay, so let's see how that looks when we type it. So I'm going to start with name equals input. Notice how I'm not finishing all of these. I'm using what comes up. Your name, please. If, open brackets. Oh, no, sorry, no brackets. So NA, I've got the name there. I can just hit enter. If name is equivalent to, that's what the doubles equal signs means. And then we're going to specify exactly what I want to check it against. Again, this is case sensitive. And if I put a colon here, then hit return, it will automatically indent for me. And I could have two lines here, but I'm just doing one for now. Print UR, and then concatenate onto the end name. So I could do another print statement here, but instead I'm going to backspace, I'm going to put the else in. Again, we've got all the options here. We'll come to elif a little bit later in the video. Else, again a colon, because the colon's out, when I hit the enter key, it will automatically indent print. You are not Ms. Payne. And that now is exactly the code that we had previously. So we've talked about the code blocks. That is a code block. This here is a code block. That is the if code block. That is the else code block. And as we said before, I can add multiple lines in here. So if I do print well done, and I can add another print statement in here if I want to. Print and just to show you, if I run this again now, step over the first one, press enter, and then we'll step into again. It'll check it and it'll come to this line. We'll do this one, then it'll do the next one, and then it will exit because it's done. And the else block would work in exactly the same way. Okay, so what operators can we use? If we're looking at text, the only one we've really got is the double equal sign or equivalent to. But if we're looking at numerical values, we've also got, as well as the equivalent to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. For numerical data type, or for all data types rather, we have a comparison table that we can look at. We have the equivalent to, that is exactly the same as this one. So here we've got true. That's not exactly the same as that, so that would be false. 3 is exactly equivalent to 3. 3 greater than 3, the statement is false because 3 is not greater than 3. Similarly, 3 is less than 3, that statement is false. 3 is less than or equal to 3, that one is true. 3 is greater than or equal to 3, again that is also true. 2 is less than or equal to 3 is true. 2 is greater than or equal to 3. That one's going to be false because it's not. And the last one, 4 greater than or equal to 3, that one is true. Okay, so we've already seen how this one works, but what we're actually doing is a Boolean comparison based on the true or false we've just seen here, and it can therefore be written a different way. So if I enter your name please, what I can do is make another variable, Boolean name check, and equals name equivalent to Ms. Payne. If, I've done brackets again, sorry, it's just going to multiply. There's no brackets for Python. If name check is equivalent to true, and then we're just back into here again. You are name else print not Ms. Payne. Okay, so I'll run that just to show you how this works. Alright, so step into the first one. It's going to ask us for the input. I'll type in @pain, hit the return key, step in again. Now up here we can see that name check is now equal to true. So when it does the check on the next line, because it's true, it comes into there. If it had been false, it would have come here. But in most cases, because it's only true or false, we don't need that bit, and it will work exactly the same like that. So step in, @pain, step through, name check is still true. If name check, and just to show you it is exactly the same, step in one more time. This time I'll put in any other text. Name check is now false. Comes into here, and we print out the code from this point. Okay, so having covered text, we're going to have a quick look at numerical examples. Now, number 1 equal to 5. Number 2 equals to 10. Less than is bool. Number 1 less than number 2. So I can then just do if less than. We've got the colon again. Print. And notice I'm not typing all these in again. Number 1 is less than number 2. As eagle-eyed amongst you may have spotted that I have changed from the concatenation to using the comma. That's because these are numbers, and I can do one or two things. I can either use commas instead of the plus sign for concatenation, or I could convert these to strings. Either would work. Else, print, and number 1 is not less than, and we can just drop to number 2. Right, so we run this one again now, debug, and I'll step in. We define the 2 variables to start with. So we've got number 1 is 5, number 2 is 10. If less than, now what that's done, you see, I've hovered over and that's true. It has already said that less than is true because that was checked here. So it is less than, so we'll come into there and we'll do it that way. But what happens if I say make that them both 10? Got the 2 variables defined. When we do the boolean, this time this has come false because 10 is not less than 10. Because it's false, we come into the else section. Right. So that is what it's actually doing. All these decisions come down to a boolean. We have a statement and we decide if that statement is true or false. The way you will normally see this written, however, is not like that. What you will generally see is that, which will run in exactly the same way. The only difference is that we've defined the two variables, and then this bit is checked all together here, but the way it works, we're still checking if that is true or false. If it's true, it will happen here. If it's false, it will happen here. Right, so let's move that swiftly on to adding in a third option. And it could be 3, 4, 5, you could have 50 or 1,000 of these. Generally it's only a few, but that's the elif, or short for else if. So let's just set this one to, that's 5, that's 10. Right, so if number 1, less number 2, do that. Elif number 1 is equal to number 2. Again, put the colon in so it generates the code block. Print number 1 is equivalent to number 2. So we can change number 1 is greater than number 2. So we've now got 3 spaces. The first check here, it will check if number 1 is less than 2. If it's not, or if it is, it will do that one straight away. If it's not, it will come to this one. If it's not this, it will come down here. So the first one is conditional. Every elif is also conditional. It checks for something. The else is literally for anything else there is there. So I'll run this through the first time like this. So while number 1 is less than number 2, we define the two numbers, do the first check, and it is less, so we're going to print number 1 less than number 2. Oh, sorry. And it works it out, of course, based on the values that were in them, so it's 5 is less than 10 because 5 and 10. So if I change that to 5 and 5, step in, we define the two variables. Does the first check, that's false, so it comes to the second check. That one is true because number 1 is equivalent to number 2, i.e. 5 is equal to 5. So we print out 5 is equivalent to 5. And if I change this one to 10, so it's the other way around, in fact, let's make it 6. So this time we're going to define the two variables. We're going to check if what's in the contents of number 1 is less than number 2. It's not, that's false, so it'll skip. Is number 1, or the contents of number 1, equivalent to the contents of number 2? No, it's not, because they're different. Excuse me, let me just run that again. Don't forget to save it. Number 1, number 2, number 1, equivalent to... Oh. Spot the deliberate mistake, so I have to be careful. I've got number 1 is equivalent to number 1 there. Right, let's run that again. define the two values. So we've got 5 and 6. 6 is not less than 5, so it skips that one, that's false. 6 is not equivalent to 5, so that will also be false. And this time this will print on the else. Okay, so I think that wraps up. It does. Thank you for watching. There'll be another instalment in the Python for Beginners series coming shortly. Bye.